Welcome to Financial Accounting F3, one of the main pillars of the ACCA qualification. I'd like to start today with three things. Number one, the syllabus, also known as the main capabilities. Number two, the examination paper. And number three, what we're going to do about it. So if you'll turn, please, to page 4 in your class notes, I'll show you what that looks like. Accountancy is a language of debits and credits. And as with any language, you have to show an understanding of what these terms mean. There's certain expressions as well. So once you show an understanding of the terms, you must also demonstrate some kind of proficiency with the use of those terms. If you do that, you will surely pass. So turn kindly to page 4 as we have a look at the main capabilities. You can see there the main capabilities, also known as the syllabus. The first section is mainly discussion, so you must expect a few marks for discussion, for explaining that you understand, though the bulk of the marks are for numbers, so it's mainly a numerical paper. So that's the syllabus. We then move to the assessment, the examination paper itself. You will notice there that we have 40 2-mark questions and 10 1-mark questions. It's a 90-mark exam and it lasts for 2 hours. Approximately 1.33 minutes per mark. I've experienced the exams myself, just as a little trial. Some questions took me a few seconds. I'm saying 10 or 15 seconds. Others took longer than 1.33 minutes per mark. Some would take 5 minutes to do. But there's a balance in there somewhere. And so the 1.33 minutes per mark is about fair. Should you do the paper-based or the computer-based exams? Without question, I'd recommend the computer-based. You cannot fail this paper. It is so easy. You need to get 50%, which is 45 marks out of the 90. Okay, so that's the syllabus, the exam paper. And now, what are we going to do about it? Over the first section of this presentation, I'm going to take you through the notes. I'm going to take you through the various challenges, the building blocks of the paper. Now, I better introduce myself. My name is Francis Braganza. I have a degree in commerce, and then I did the Chartered Accountancy exams. A boss recently worked out for me that he felt that in excess of 25,000 students had passed with me on ACCA and CIMA exams. Now, obviously, the only thing that matters to me is that you must pass. So I'll do my best to explain as clearly as I can the issues involved with this paper. It is a very easy paper, but it is a fundamental skill for an accountant. In other words, the ability to do financial accounting. Oh, just one other thing. When you're looking at that computer screen and you have 4 options to choose from, can I strongly recommend that if you're a little bit stuck, make a guess. The computer will never say to you, that is a ridiculous answer, therefore -1. You look at it, click onto one of them. Though occasionally these days I notice there is a need to type in a figure, so you can't really guess. But let's say if you're looking at multiple choice, do not submit a question without making a choice. Because if it's wrong, you get 0. If it's right, perhaps, if it is right, you will get something, 2 marks. So never submit a question without making a choice, without answering it. Because if you don't answer it, you get 0. Now, the next phase of this presentation is, again, a 3-step approach. I want to explain to you how we prepare accounts, what do these accounts look like, and how do we do the bookkeeping. So we turn kindly to page 5 in your notes. You'll see there we have an introduction to accounting. What is the purpose of accounting? Why do we prepare accounts? The next issue, of course, what are the qualitative characteristics behind accounts, so accounts must display? So the qualitative characteristics, let's face that. Accounts must have these characteristics: reliability, relevance to the business, not the proprietor's own interests, and of course to the current year. So we have reliability, relevance, understandability, completeness, comparability, timeliness. Those are some of the key characteristics. So the examiner will say to you, choose between a collection of these, perhaps 3 at a time, and he'll put in, the examiner will put in the odd characteristic that doesn't belong in this list. So be a little bit careful there, but as I say, always guess if you're stuck. So what is accounting? Accounting is made up of 2 elements: the recording, which is the bookkeeping, and of course the presenting in final accounts. On page 6, we explain why we prepare accounts. Why is it we prepare accounts? It is the users that we are addressing. So there's management accounting, there's financial accounting. You can see there management accounts are produced as often as a business wants them, though the accounting policies can be chosen by management. Whereas with financial accounting, it's very, very much more regulated by accounting standards, the IASs, International Accounting Standards, and of course the IFRSs, the International Financial Reporting Standards. So IASs and IFRSs. You do not need the numbers of these IASs and so on, but a very good student obviously will know them. It just helps you to remember. Though at the later stages of the exam, a little fluency with the which IFRS covers which topic may help you. But with a computer base, it doesn't matter so much. So, financial accounts. These are usually produced annually, and often they are used for external purposes as well. So if you turn please to page 6, I'll take you through some of the users. So who are the users of accounts? Clearly we have investors. Is return on capital invested adequate? So if you could fill in your notes as we go along, please. When it comes to lenders, is there enough operating profit being generated to cover payments? Things like interest, repayments, etc. Is there cash flow? Is it adequate to cover these payments? How about employees? Is there security? Of employment? Is company financially strong? Those are questions the employees will seek answers to as they look at the accounts. How about the government? They've got to decide on levels of taxes, and obviously the opposite of taxes, grants and subsidies. Grants may be given to encourage employment, creation of employment in otherwise less developed areas. How about the public? I suppose the public has provided funds to the large company, and so they are entitled to receive information. Though in a broader sense, I suppose we could say there are products and services the company provides, environmental issues, better write that in green. You understand? Sustainability. And if a public company with shares quoted on the stock exchange, performance of the company in generating profits becomes of paramount interest. So if you turn then to page 7, financial statements, you can see there that we have several challenges in this exam. One obviously is the layout of the statement of financial position, used to be called the balance sheet, and of course the layout of the income statement. Quite apart from that, we have things like the statement of changes in equity, not to mention the cash flow statement. So those are the 4 fundamental skills you must display, as we've explained on page 7. Towards the end of page 7, we introduce the concept of a suspense account. What that means is, once you've done your transactions in something called a ledger, the balances from the ledger are extracted into something called a trial balance. If that trial balance doesn't balance, we introduce something called a suspense account. It's temporarily suspended until such time as you find where these figures should have gone in the first place. So that itself is a skill the examiner will be testing you on. Eliminating the suspense account and putting pushing those items to their final resting place. As a final part of this session, what I'd like you to do is to turn to page 8 and 9. To show you the formats. The statement of financial position, you must learn that by heart. Even though under this computer-based type of exam for 2 marks and so on, for different questions, just 2 marks, you will not be expected to do a whole financial statement position. On the other hand, if you want to get a good mark, you must show some demonstration of the relationship between figures. So for that reason, I'd like you to memorize the format. Looking at non-current assets, you see we have cost, depreciation, and net book value. Under current assets, we have inventory, another word for stock, trade receivables, sometimes called debtors or customers, of course. These are credit customers who haven't paid us yet, which is why we have an asset. Prepayments, obviously payments made in advance, which gives the company a benefit of a free service in the future, and the value of that benefit is described as a prepayment. In other words, if you pay your rent for 6 months in advance of this year, you've paid for the whole of this year plus another 6 months. For the first 6 months of next year, the company has an asset because that rent has been prepaid. And the value of that asset, that value of the benefit the company will receive without paying any more money for the first half of next year, is put onto the balance sheet or the statement of financial position. Then you have the cash balance. That's your total assets added up. You then have your capital section. The opening capital plus profit minus drawings is obviously your closing capital. The non-current liabilities follow. That is, of course, items that the company must pay outside of 1 year. And then you have the current liabilities, which clearly falls within 1 year. So make sure you memorize the format for the statement of financial position, as indeed you will for the next, on the next page, the statement of comprehensive income, or just income statement is good enough. Revenue means sales or turnover. Less cost of sales gives gross profit. We have a few other sundry income items. Take away your expenses, and you have your net profit. That's just a sample of the kind of items you might encounter in the exam. Beyond that, we have a more formal limited company or public limited company at times format. So that is something well worth studying as well. Do notice that the early part of the equity and liability section is quite different from that of a sole trader, which was in the earlier pages. So do be careful of that. The income statement, nothing to report, and of course the statement of changes in equity. It's very important to realize that this structured format helps comparability between companies, and of course for a single company, comparability between different years. So please be mindful of that. So you notice that we have been looking at what financial accounting is about, and indeed why we do financial accounting. That ends this section. In the next section, I propose to show you how we do double entry bookkeeping.